It's December 18th. I've been really struggling. Really struggling with this whole self-worth issue. I finished the North class, and just sitting with my North Node a little bit more. And I knew it was going to be about life's work, right? Thinking, okay, well, I don't know what I thought. like I know. I think it's just that internal conflict, right? It's like I know. Like there's this element of knowing and still the internal conflict. Of like, who am I? Who am I? To hold them. Because it's, I mean, aside from just knowing, I mean, but I don't at the same time, like I don't know. Oh, I think that's the part it is. I don't know what it's gonna look like, really. So I'm listening to this class talk a little bit more about the different houses and things you're supposed to embrace and let go of, and potential like categories of the work that I'm supposed to do, and it's like CEO, and I'm just like and it's just the thought of that is overwhelming a little. And that was one of the things that they said in the class was someone, she has like her own mentors, and one of them is who she talks about and checks in with in regards to her North Node, her own purpose. And she asked the question about, there was a certain point where the person she goes to said, you know, I often don't let people know what their North Node is because it's overwhelming. It can be too big in their mind. And sometimes you have to go through the experiences to get nudged there, right? You need the experiences to, without the knowing, to be able to push through. So sometimes it's that balancing act of, right, knowing too much, right? Because that's what he said too. It's just some people, when they know too much, they won't go towards it, and they need to. And there's more flavor to it. Like they were talking about different ways to embrace your North Node. Like that's the flavor you give it. It doesn't necessarily have to be or look a certain way. There's so many different possibilities based on our interests, right? And that it's not so much your life's purpose, it's the uncomfortable energy you're supposed to embrace. So I was just sitting with it a little bit more and just struggling with like, gosh, like a CEO, and then like I'm taking her business class too, and the people that she's identifying as part of her business, like just the thought of like, how am I gonna lead? Like there's a part of me that's just like, how am I gonna lead? How am I gonna lead? How am I gonna do that? and just really struggling, really struggling. And it didn't help that I'm still processing my ex's chart and sitting with his North Node and just reflecting on our relationship over the years and the struggles that I had. And he was just being him. Like, he was fulfilling his North Node, right? There was a certain element of him needing to be selfish, right? Needing for him to just be happy and not care about what other people think. And I remember struggling with that. And there was this element, I'm just like, yeah, you don't have to. Your parents are still together. Like, you don't have to. You don't know what struggle is what I told him. You don't know what struggle is. Like, your parents are still together. You have... And that's one of the things that I gravitated towards him, because I remember falling in love with his family first. I remember the moment that I fell in love with his family. And thinking to myself, because there was so much drama, so much chaos, that his felt like a relief. Like, it was just like, like there was safety and security in his family and the activities they did. And the first time that I went to one of their holiday events, because I stayed away from it at the very beginning, because I thought, why am I going to go to your family event when we're not even really, like, married, right? We don't have to. I have my family, you have yours. But I remember the first time, and I remember how in love I was with how they interacted. Like, it just was peaceful, and it was so, like, nice and safe, and people got along. Like, no, there wasn't any raising of voice. Like, it was just... it was different, and I liked it. But then it became an issue, because I came from a family where there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of unspokenness, if you will, and hidden secrets, and there was some, I mean, and not to say that it was all bad, but it was stressful, and I don't know if it was just that time period that it was stressful. But his family was like a breath of fresh air. That's what I remember. And thinking to myself, like, I want this. This is what I want. Something stable, something safe. So my moon is in Capricorn. I think that's like one of the few earth signs in my chart, aside from Chiron and Taurus. I think it's just Capricorn and Taurus in terms of earth energy on my chart. And the moon is supposed to be how you really feel about things. So in essence, I'm wanting to feel stable. I'm wanting to feel secure, right? I'm wanting that in my emotional situation, in love, I guess. And then to have my Chiron and Taurus, the loss of relationships, the loss of attachments, right? So I'm just thinking about that, and then realizing, like, I went to bed, I'm like, I haven't grieved. I haven't grieved the loss of my marriage, the loss of my husband, the loss of that life. I hadn't really, because when I moved out, it was more like this freedom, this feeling of freedom. Because it was so challenging to try to get him to see me, to know me, and to understand me, really. It felt like I was always having to explain myself. And then even more so to know that I wasn't even hurt was hurtful. And then to see this chart and be like, oh, that's why, right? It's not his fault. Like that's what he was supposed to do. I just didn't know that. So it just felt like a struggle. I had to like teach him like this is empathy. Like this is what you do, right? This is how you look at other people, at the situation from someone else's perspective. I did that a lot because he couldn't see it. He couldn't see it. And it was all about him. Right? Not that he was like selfish. It was he was very passive, so it wasn't, you know, like, I mean, I've met some selfish people, but oftentimes it's those selfish people that need to work on empathy, right? And with him, it wasn't. Like, he was very giving. Like, when you told him what to do, he would do it. So a lot of people pleasing, and he would do it, but there was always this natural gravitation towards him doing what he wanted, or focusing on just being content and happy. It would drive me crazy. I remember that. But then also remembering the good times too. Like, I stayed up watching Love Actually, and just remembering the holiday movies that we would watch around this time. Like, we had we created our own traditions, especially because we didn't have children. So anyways, I was just grieving that. I was grieving him, and I realized I hadn't done that. I hadn't really grieved him, the loss. I was so eager to just leave, and you know, and then everything started happening, this whole spiritual awakening stuff that kind of consumed my focus. So I you know, and the funny thing is that oftentimes people, and even though there was like elements of grieving, it really was this whirlwind. Like, I didn't grieve as much, and people thought I was grieving, but it was other stuff that was going on. I mean, even my sister was surprised that I was ready to move on. So I didn't really grieve. So then I thought, is this what this is? And I think because of the realization of his birth chart and just understanding now, right? This is me understanding him. For so long, it was me fighting to be understood, and this is me understanding him. So, anyways. So there's that. Sitting with this concept of what my life's purpose is, not knowing but knowing at the same time. And there's fear in the parts that I don't know, and insecurities. And I had a dream. I hadn't dreamt for a while, and there was a part of me too that felt alone, like wanting my waves to come back, wanting to see the light, wanting something. And then at the same time knowing, like, I don't need it because I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. Like, there's nothing else for them to communicate, right? Like, I just need to do this. And freaking out about it. And so I had a dream. I dreamt of an old warehouse. Like, it's kind of like where I used to work. And it was a huge building where I used to work that housed all of the different departments. And I mean, it is a huge organization. And so it was something similar to that effect. Like, there were familiar faces of our support staff, and I'm navigating through the different departments. And then I get to, there's this like supervisor position at my job, but it's where I am at now. So the physical setting is my old job, but the job that I'm doing is my job now. And there's a supervisor role that I apply for because I know I can do it. Like there's just something intuitive in my dream. I know I can do it, but then I get turned down. And then I'm trying to understand why. And they did a cognitive test on me. So where I work right now, a lot of it is working with older adults, or they primarily work with older adults. So there's older adults with a lot of cognitive impairments or light, cognitive memory stuff going on. Not to say that all of them do, but I'm starting to work more and more with some of these people. And there's an element of like, oh dang, like, can I really do this? Because it's something new. I mean, the closest thing that I can relate to it is my dad, and with his situation, and then trying to remember when I worked in the hospital setting and what that was like. So anyway, so in my dream, I'm given the results of this test that I apparently took, but I don't remember taking. And it's showing my cognitive decline, and that was the reason why I wasn't being given this job, even though intuitively, like, there was this knowing, like, I could do this. I've done it before, to be a supervisor, because I have been a supervisor. But for whatever reason, I there's this test that supposedly I took, and it's telling me all the things I was, the directions I was given and how I responded, and me trying to remember. I don't even remember them asking me these things. So then I realized, oh my gosh, do I really have a cognitive impairment? Like, that I can't remember that I was given these instructions, and that's why they weren't hiring me. Even though intuitively I knew, like, I can do this, I can do this. So there was that dream. In the dream, there was also rice. I was cooking rice, and I was eating it. My sister was teaching me how to cook rice, and I was eating the rice. The only thing was that the rice cooker looked like a toilet, and there were all these other toilets too, and they each had their own purpose, but this one in particular was to cook rice. I don't know how, but that my sister did it. She ate it, and I ate it, and I remember thinking, it looks like a toilet. So there's that. So I woke up sitting with it. I was like, oh dang. And remembering, right? That actually triggered in me memories. I'm like, Yubi, you've spoken. You've led trainings. You've led large, like at the last organization. I think it's a huge organization, and all staff events. Like, I spoke in front of all of them, and then remembering all of the other challenges that I pushed through, and telling myself, you got this, you've done this before, you've been preparing for this. Like, all of these life events have been in preparation for you to get to this point, right? That self-talk, that positive self-talk. Coincidentally, the video that I posted today is on my limits and barriers, and how we set limits and barriers for ourselves. So it's like my past is reminding me. My past is like letters to the future me, right? They're letters. These videos are letters to the future me. So Yubi, if you're getting this, you've done this before. You've spoken in front of a large crowd before. As uncomfortable as it was, you did it. And there was an element of you liking it, so don't forget that too. There's an element of you liking the attention, liking that you were teaching other people information that was going to be helpful for them. You liked it. As nerve-wracking as it was, you liked it. Don't forget you did that a couple of times. You've spoken, and that was face-to-face. You also did it via Zoom with your cousin. Don't forget that. You've led teams of all sizes. You've led teams of all sizes. Don't forget that. You even though that was your first supervisor job, you actually held other leading positions at your other jobs when, as a substitute, when don't you remember at Santa Fe Springs when you worked there in Norwalk area, and the supervisor stepped away, you took it on temporarily. You took on those responsibilities temporarily. to get the feel for leading, and people would come to you. They naturally would come to you for direction. It started in the classroom, and then you made your way up. Don't forget that. As uncomfortable as it was, don't forget it. You did it. You can do this. You can do this. It's in you. You have the tools. You have everything you need. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. So, letter to my future self. So I need to stay focused. Use these next few days wisely. There's a reason why I'm not going back so soon. And yeah. So that was all. Hi. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us, in whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth. This just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me.